Good morning. Thank God it's Friday. Will the 49ers beat the Broncos? You guys know that's one of the highlight videos of the week. So, technically, coffee with Lombardi. It's good. We're cooking with gas this morning as the 49ers get ready to play the Broncos on Sunday Night Football. So, actually, a whole lot of games to watch around the NFL before this one officially kicks off. But yesterday I talked about, can the 49ers beat the Broncos? Today it's, will the 49ers beat the Broncos? And I'm headed out to the facility one more time before going to Denver. I'm going to be in Denver, obviously, on Sunday night for this game at whatever the name of that stadium is now. It used to be called Invesco Field at Mile High now, right? But I think it's called like Empower Field. So tacky name replaced with tacky name. That's just the way that some of these corporate sponsorships go. But we have the game preview up already on Athletic, so why don't you guys go ahead and check that out. Subscribe to the Athletic and check out the link, which I am putting right into that chat section right now. 10 observations and then predictions from Matt Barrows and me on 49ers and Broncos. So, will the 49ers beat the Broncos? Well, there's a lot to talk about as far as this matchup goes. The 49ers are about 0.5 to 2 point favorites in this game. I think they were underdogs when the schedule first came out several months ago. And that's really my overarching look at this matchup is, remember when we did have that May schedule release? Everybody started circling week 3 Sunday Night Football on the calendar, and they were saying, oh boy, this is going to be the first major test for the 49ers. Look how hard the AFC West is. They do get to avoid Russell Wilson the second time, but they don't get to avoid him once because they're playing the Broncos where Russell Wilson got traded. And I think a lot of people chalked it up to a loss, the week 3 game against Denver. A lot of people were saying, either the 49ers are going to be really stiffly tested or, they're not going to be favored to win this game. They're more likely to lose this game than to win it. Fast forward, obviously a lot has happened since then. Jimmy Garoppolo has taken over for the injured Trey Lance. In the betting markets, the 49ers actually got better after Garoppolo took over as QB1. They are now 1.5 point favorites, last I checked, against the Denver Broncos. So it's just really interesting how that shifted. I think it really validates what we had been saying about Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance over the past few months, that Jimmy Garoppolo is the 49ers' better option right now. But the 49ers were trying to play this risky game, right, of developing Trey Lance on the fly over the course of the season and hoping that by the time everything was said and done, by the time that the 49ers reached December and the playoffs, that Lance would be better than Garoppolo right now, that Lance's ceiling was higher, right? So you had to give him the runway. But again, I think everybody recognized that that was a risky plan. And, credit to the 49ers for taking a big swing. But that swing is in the rearview mirror now. We can worry about Lance's development moving forward after he heals. He's got to rehab first. Right now, we're living in the here and now, and the here and now means that Jimmy Garoppolo is the quarterback and the 49ers are favored against Denver this weekend. So it is Garoppolo against Russell Wilson. And I really think that the headlining storyline of this game is the fact that Russell Wilson and Jimmy Garoppolo in a lot of ways are inverses, but in a lot of ways face related but different criticism, right? So Russell Wilson, the mobile Russell Wilson, the Houdiniac guy, Russell Wilson, he's been roasted. He was roasted straight out of Seattle, I feel, for not throwing the ball over the middle toward the end of his tenure, probably because he's not tall enough to see over the line of scrimmage when he's confined to the pocket. This season, Wilson has attempted only 2 passes that have traveled over 10 yards downfield in between the numbers. Meanwhile, everybody talks about Jimmy Garoppolo not throwing outside the numbers and downfield a lot. So we're going to see if any of those 2 trends change, because I think if Wilson continues not throwing over the middle, and by the way, those 2 passes that he's attempted that have traveled over 10 yards over the middle of the field, one of them has turned into a pick and only one was a completion. So he's 1 of 2 with an interception, his only interception of the season. If that continues against this 49ers team, I really think the 49ers have the outside cornerback play between Charvarius Ward and Emmanuel Mosley to really shut down this Denver offense. And Houston shut them down for most of the game in week 2, right? It was only 16 total points for Denver. So I really think that Russell Wilson needs to use the middle of the field to expose this 49ers defense. If you're only forcing the 49ers to guard parts of the field, this pass rush is too good. These linebackers come downhill. They tackle too well. Talanoa Hufanga has been playing too good of a level of football. You're not going to be able to efficiently move the ball against the 49ers. So Russell Wilson needs to answer the question coming his way. And the question coming Jimmy's way, this is from last night's video, is key number 5. So make sure you subscribe to the channel, like that video. Jimmy Garoppolo's got to cook. And it's funny because Russell Wilson and Seattle fans, they said the same thing about Russ. They said, let Russ cook, because they felt that Seattle was going too run heavy. They weren't allowing Russell Wilson to throw enough. Well, I don't think it's a matter of, how many times Jimmy Garoppolo's throwing, but I think over the course of this week, as we've done our reporting, as we talked to Jimmy Garoppolo on Sunday after the game, and he talked again yesterday on Thursday, we have verified something that we've suspected for a while, and that's the longer that Jimmy Garoppolo has been in Kyle Shanahan's offense, the more choreographed it has become around the short game. And I think the short game is great because it does really complement one of Garoppolo's skill sets, but he has more than one skill set. He can also throw the ball downfield. I mean, I played the clip so many times this week. You can go and look up that video as well. I'm not going to put it on right now, but maybe I should. Maybe I should find and put it on right now, because Garoppolo throwing deep to Brandon Ayuk over 40 yards in the air outside the numbers, that was a big deal. I mean, it was a perfect pass. Ayuk couldn't hold on to it, but the first few plays of Garoppolo's outing against the Seattle Seahawks showed a quarterback that looked a whole lot more like the unrestrained 2017 version. And Jimmy's been talking about 2017 Jimmy this week, and he was saying, well, I just didn't know the playbook then, so I was freewheeling a little bit more. I think it's incumbent for the 49ers, on Kyle Shanahan, for the 49ers' success to meet Garoppolo, maybe not halfway, but 20%, 25% of the way there. Incorporate some of that stuff to stretch the field a little bit more, because Garoppolo can do it physically. It seems to be what he wants to do. Yesterday he said, I'd love that. On Sunday he said, I'm ecstatic that we did that in the game in relief of Trey Lance. So if you meet Jimmy Garoppolo and kind of, you're constantly evaluating what throws your QB can make, what throws he can't make. That's why they adapted the offense for Trey Lance, because he wasn't as good as Jimmy Garoppolo in the short game, but they felt that he was a little bit better on the long game. Well, now that you've seen Jimmy Garoppolo be able to make some of these outside the numbers, push it downfield throws, the ones that he made in 2017, why not try to stretch the defense in bigger ways like that? So Patrick Surtain, the cornerback for the Denver Broncos, we'll see if the 49ers go head on with him or if they throw to the opposite side of the field. But I think for both of these QBs, you want to make sure that you're taxing the entire defense, because, hey, both of these defenses have good players. These are both talented defenses. For the Denver Broncos, you're going to have Bradley Chubb rushing the passer. You're going to have Randy Gregory. Remember the crazy incidents with Randy Gregory this offseason? It looked like he was going to re-sign with the Cowboys, and Schefter and Rappaport and everybody had already put out their tweets and their reports about it. And then all of a sudden, Randy Gregory said, nope, never mind. I have not signed with the Dallas Cowboys. I'm taking my talents to Denver. Well, Randy Gregory, who actually was the player who hit Jimmy Garoppolo on the play that Jimmy Garoppolo hurt his shoulder against the Cowboys last year, he's going to be coming off another edge. I mean, you have a 3-4 defense here in Denver that gets after it. And DJ Jones is now in the middle of that defense. You have to take advantage of familiar faces if you're the 49ers, and that is not going to be easy to do. DJ, by the way, I hope you guys have your coffee. It's Coffee with Lombardi for those of you guys just coming in. DJ's leading the league right now in run stop win rate. I don't think that surprises 49ers fans, because he was at the top of that ranking as recently as last year in a 49ers uniform. So the Broncos, I mean, there's a lot philosophically in common between the Broncos and the 49ers. If you think about it, Adam Peters, 49ers assistant GM, has been their main personnel guy here for a while. He came from the Broncos. That story is crazy, and I talk about it in the article up on the screen. Adam Peters, maybe we can even pop that open here. Let's find our Adam Peters note and talk about him right here. I wrote this back in 2018, so it's a good time to bring back this piece. Fast rising Adam Peters, a key John Lynch lieutenant, is right in his element with the 49ers. So Peters was the director of college personnel, so college scouting, basically, for the Denver Broncos under John Elway, former GM John Elway, who's now an outside consultant for the organization. George Payton has taken over for John Elway. But obviously, the great John Elway, former quarterback for the Broncos, was in charge in Denver in 2016. Peters was the top college scouting guy. And John Lynch in 2016 was a Fox analyst. John Lynch was invited by John Elway, his friend. They got the Stanford connection, right? The two Johns of the Stanford connection both went to I have the Stanford connection too. But anyway, I had to point that out. They both go to a meeting, a pre-draft meeting. I think they might have even gone to a series of pre-draft meetings. And it just so happened that Lynch, as a guest of the Denver Broncos and John Elway at these pre-draft meetings, sat next to Adam Peters. And they developed a good relationship. So the next year, when Kyle Shanahan brought Lynch to be his general manager in San Francisco, Lynch remembered that Adam Peters was a really bright guy, and he wanted him in his front office. Adam Peters, up on your screen, is from Cupertino. He's from the Bay Area. He grew up going to Candlestick, and his best memory from childhood was sharing an elevator with Joe Montana at Candlestick Park. So Adam Peters, when John Lynch called him, was thrilled to be able to return home, but he had to get permission to leave his contract with Denver from John Elway. And John Elway said the only person that I would have let Adam Peters leave this contract for is John Lynch. So really cool kind of story there. And I mean, the 49ers Broncos, symbiosis or connections, they go back really far, right? Mike Shanahan, 49ers offensive coordinator, 1992 to 1994, got the best years out of Steve Young. Steve Young's 2 MVPs in 92 and 94, and the 49ers' most recent Super Bowl. Mike Shanahan went to coach Denver after that. Shanahan then coached John Elway. So we talk about Trey Lance and Kyle Shanahan wanting mobility. Well, you could look back at Elway and Steve Young, two of the top 10 runners at the quarterback position of all time. But Elway won Super Bowls for the Broncos under Mike Shanahan in 97 and 98. Elway retired after 98. Steve Young played in 1999, but suffered the concussion after Aeneas Williams hit him from the Cardinals on Monday Night Football and didn't play again. But it turns out, I talked to Mike Shanahan about this, and we could also pop this open. Why don't we? And we're just going down memory lane right now. Why don't we see what Mike Shanahan had to say just a couple years ago? Where is this? Here it is. So, where were we in the story? That linked to the wrong thing. I have to find this picture, though, because the starter jackets that everybody has on are awesome. This is the Seahawks preview. So why don't we go here? Give me 1 second. Let's find Mike Shanahan, and I'm going to continue this story because this is a good one. This is stuff that I don't think it didn't really surface until later. All right, we got it. You guys ready for this? Pop it open on the screen. There we go. Mike Shanahan and Steve Young. How about that jacket? This is in the 1994 season. You could tell by the throwback jerseys. Okay, anyway, Shanahan coaches Young with the 49ers from 92 to 94. Then Shanahan goes to the Denver Broncos as the head coach in 1995. Guess who becomes the 49ers defensive coordinator in 95, by the way? This is kind of unrelated, but interesting. Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll's their D coordinator in 95 and 96. Anyway, Shanahan with the Broncos, John Elway, after coaching Steve Young, wins the Super Bowl in 97, beats the Green Bay Packers that year, then wins the Super Bowl in 1998, beats the Atlanta Falcons that year. Elway retires after 1998. Steve Young, in this picture on the right, doesn't retire after 98. He plays in 99, but suffers what ends up being a career-ending concussion. However, Steve Young, symptomatically at least, fully recovered from that concussion in 1999, and his contract with the 49ers expired after that season. So Mike Shanahan at left, right here in this picture, called up Steve Young after his contract expired, and Mike Shanahan really thought that Steve Young would join him in Denver for at least one last ride. In fact, the exact quote from Mike Shanahan is in this Q&A that I did with Mike back in 2018. And we can just search the word Steve and we'll find the exact quote. And he was right here. This is what Mike said about Steve Young coming to the Broncos in 2000. I was hoping I was going to get him before he really retired. I thought Steve might come back for one more shot, but it didn't work out. Oh, what could have been had Steve Young joined the Denver Broncos in 2000. So anyway, there's some intertwined history between the 49ers and the Denver Broncos. Between all of that and now, well, you look at who the Broncos have that the 49ers used to have. DJ Jones in the middle. There's Jonas Griffith. Remember him, the linebacker? Jonas Griffith, who played so well during training camp last year. 49ers actually made a trade with Denver and are essentially able to net a 6th-round pick in return for Jonas Griffith. But you got to take advantage of both of those guys. You have to be able to neutralize DJ Jones. And I wrote about the 49ers interior offensive linemen in this piece, as you can see here. Spencer Burford, Aaron Banks, 65 and 74. Both of those guys are going to have to handle DJ Jones. Top run stopper in football from the defensive tackle position. And we know that he's got the explosiveness and some of the moves to pass rush too. The 49ers on the road in this game must continue to hold serve with their rushing attack. They ran for what? A $189 against the Seattle Seahawks, a $176 in week 1 against the Chicago Bears. The 49ers controlled game flow in games 1 and 2. I know it got away from them against the Bears because of the penalties, but that's a given, right? You can't commit penalties. They have to do what they did in week 2 against Seattle here on the road against Denver. But they also need to continue running the football well. That sets up the spine of the offense. And I think the main matchup there are these guys. Spencer Burford, Aaron Banks, Jake Brendel, the guys on the middle that take care of DJ Jones. Because you know that Trent Williams and Mike McGlinchey have been run blocking really well. I think that you could say that they're going to handle Bradley Chubb and Randy Gregory in that run game. But it's the interior that has to continue showing out. And so far, both of the 49ers young guards, they rank in the top 7 in the NFL pass protection grade. The run blocking has been good for both of them, but pass protection has been really good. And if the 49ers run well, these guys are going to have a chance to, be in some pass pro and show what they've really excelled at. And Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be able to show what he excels at. He's going to be able to cook. So it's all symbiotic, right? That's what you have to try to beat in this Denver defense. I think they might be a little soft at inside linebacker. That's where Jonas Griffith is, former 49er, by the way. That they've got one excellent corner, obviously, in Surtain, and they have a good defensive line. So to neutralize that good defensive line, you have to run the football if you're the 49ers. Now, we're going to go back to one of yesterday's keys, disciplined pass rush for the 49ers. The Broncos have not looked great offensively, especially last week. They really sputtered. I talk about Russell Wilson not using the middle of the field. If you rush him in disciplined fashion, he has to look from the pocket. He's a shorter quarterback. He's not going to see the field as well. There's a reason why Russell is better when he's running around. It's because he could see the field when he's running around. He's an escape artist, so don't let him escape. Build those walls where the QB escape hatch normally is in the pocket. I can't emphasize the importance of that enough. The 49ers have been burned by this time and time and time again. And then, behind that offensive line, you're going to need more solid safety play from Talanoa Hufanga, from Tashawn Gibson, from all these guys that, have to cover maybe for a couple beats longer in case Russell Wilson is slipping around back there. You're going to need the coverage to help the rush, just as the rush helps the coverage. But Denver's got a good run game too. They have a decent offensive line. That run game, though, you look at Javonte Williams, you look at Melvin Gordon, two different kind of backs, right? Gordon's a little bit lighter, but Gordon's an all-around back. He's been around the league for a while. Williams is a 220-pound ball of muscle. But Denver can test you with its ground game, and then Russell Wilson can take off as well. The 49ers lead the league in run defense through 2 weeks. They're getting up only 2.6 yards per carry. Kevin Givens, Javon Kinlaw have done a hell of a job on the inside, pushing guys back, absorbing double teams, really bearing the brunt of the load that is really important for a defensive tackle to shoulder in a wide 9 system, because they're going to get double teams from this Denver offensive line. One more familiar face, but we won't see him. Tom Compton. He's now with the Broncos, but he's on PUP because he underwent back surgery this offseason. But it's really important that the 49ers continue to deliver along the interior defensive line. And then you let Nick Bosa work on the outside. You let Ebicom work. Charles Omenihu's been really good. I mean, this defense is really good for the 49ers. So stop the run as they've been doing and let those other guys feast. And then, just get your popcorn out and you get to watch Charvarius Ward against Courtland Sutton. They're going to be some really good matchups there. But I think, when we return to our main question, the 49ers are really good, especially on the defensive side of the ball. They've improved in the betting market ever since Jimmy Garoppolo took over at quarterback, which is really understandable because they're more efficient offensively, more consistent now than with Trey Lance, who still had at least several weeks to go before he developed into that quarterback. And the 49ers are pass protecting well. And as far as their pass protection goes, that's how far the 49ers are going to go this year, as long as Jimmy Garoppolo stays healthy. They have their skill possession weapons ready to go, everybody except for really Elijah Mitchell and Ty Davis-Price, right? But that running back room, as long as Deebo Samuel's in there, he's a cheat code. And George Kittle should play this weekend. And George Kittle, the last time that we had a sample size of George Kittle not playing that was large enough to kind of measure the impact of him playing versus when he's not playing, the 49ers with George Kittle on the field were over 24 expected points better per 100 plays with George Kittle than without it. That's massive. He is so, so important to this 49ers team. I call it ambidexterity for the offense, right? You don't know if they're going to run or if they're going to run a pass pattern to George Kittle anytime that he lines up to the line of scrimmage. He's got that kind of adaptability. He could sell the run block. He can sell the pass credibly because he runs 4.5 and he's got good hands. And obviously he can maul people as a run blocker. So having Kittle back in there is going to help the 49ers a lot. Probably even more important than any single running back that they can have in this game, especially because they've got Deebo Samuel back there. So the offense is adaptable. Jimmy Garoppolo is currently healthy. If you're a 49ers fan, you can obviously knock on wood because you need to stay healthy moving through this. But there's a reason why the 49ers are favored in this game. Now, they're going to have to overcome altitude. This is a game at Mile High Stadium, right? Invesco or Empower Field at Mile High, whatever you want to call it. That's going to gas guys. I talked to Javon Kinlaw about it yesterday, and he was like, I've never played at altitude, but I played in the humidity. And he said he actually liked playing in the humidity in South Carolina because he said that, warms up your joints and, you're ready to go. But we'll see how these big muscly guys, that mass, it needs oxygen to continue. Oxygen is fuel for the muscles. So the big guys, they're the ones that struggle the most in this humidity, especially if they're not acclimated to it. You don't got the red blood cell count up yet. So there's a reason why the 49ers, before they play in Mexico City against the Cardinals in November, they're going to spend the week in Colorado Springs at altitude, back in the same state that they're headed to this weekend. And it's so they can get acclimated to the altitude. And they won't really be all that acclimated. Maybe I think they're going to fly today. So maybe since the game's not till Sunday night, they'll get some acclimatization time. But it's something they've got to be mindful of. They've got to rotate on the defensive line. They're already planning to do these things, but get those oxygen tanks ready on the sideline. Just essentially, they need to take care of all the potential disadvantages in this game. They need to account for all the potential disadvantages in this game because on paper, as a football team, the 49ers have at least the slight advantage. The offensive line is playing really well. I think it can neutralize that Denver pass rush if they run the football. 49ers defensive line is number 2 to nobody, right? The 49ers safeties are playing really well. Russell Wilson struggled to throw over the middle of the field. So if you put together all these pieces, and Jimmy Garoppolo looks fresh, Jimmy Garoppolo looks excited to attack the defense. You put together all these pieces, factor in that George Kittle's coming back, the 49ers are a really good football team. There's a reason why they're a trendy pick to go a long way in the NFC this year. And there's a reason why they're 1.5 point favorites. So along those lines, I think the 49ers are going to win a narrow one. I think the altitude is going to be an issue because it has to be just physiological. I think the 49ers are going to win 24-23. And if that happens, they're going to move to 2-1. So will the 49ers beat the Broncos? Yes, is my answer. And now I have to get going. I'm going to head down to the facility in a little bit. It's going to be a good day. Then we head off to Denver. So it's going to be a lot of fun. All right, everybody, check out the article up on your screen. That's 10 observations and predictions from me And Matt Barrows, I am putting it back into the chat section one more time. And we are 122 subs away from 20,000. So why don't we all smash the sub button right now? Maybe get it by the time everybody watches this video. Everybody, thanks again. Subscribe to The Athletic. The piece is in the chat section. It's going to be in the comment section here in just a second. You can follow along on Twitter and Instagram as well. All right, everybody, take care. Have a great Friday. We'll talk to you soon with some more content surrounding 49ers and Broncos.